This has serious implications for the Toronto Raptors, as a lot of the discourse around this team to start off this season has been about the young guys, year one of a rebuild. How are the rookies doing? But one story that's getting overlooked right now is Jakob Poeltl stepping up his game to become a star level center out there in the NBA. And frankly, this has more immediate impact in terms of decision making, in terms of big developments for this Toronto Raptors team, because again, we all know the current state of this Raptors squad. We're the worst team in the NBA record wise, and we're just losing a ton, and it's clear this team is pushing to capture a flag, pushing to get a top draft pick in this year's NBA draft. They admitted it at the start of the season. This is year one of a rebuild, and this team is trying to build up the core of young talent. And Jakob Poeltl could easily be a part of this team's future. The way he's playing, the way he's performing, he has really just emerged as a star level center out there in the NBA. But there's a huge contingent of Raptors fans that are saying, hey, sell high on this guy. He's a little bit older than our current core. You could get a ton of assets back from now the way that he's playing. So we're going to discuss what Jakob Poeltl's emergence has forced some difficult decisions for Masai Ujiri to decide upon, because either way, there's no real wrong answer with the way Jakob Poeltl's been playing right now. But frankly, this has just been a crazy storyline that I think hasn't gotten enough discussion. So we'll talk about Jakob Poeltl's emergence, the dominant performance he just had against the Detroit Pistons, and just everything that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team. But before we dive into any of that, folks, again, I want to thank everyone very, very much for letting us hit that 36,000 subscriber mark, but we are not slowing down here at Raptors Digest. So if you're part of the 67% of our viewers that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, make sure you guys hit that sub button, because we're delivering daily Toronto Raptors coverage out here on this team and covering everything, in regards to what's going on with this squad, including some of the crazy developments that are going on this year. Because again, the Raptors just played the Detroit Pistons, lost this game. I'm keeping bringing up this animation because frankly I think it came out real crispy, real clean. But the Cooper flag, a great loss for the tanking fans. The fans that are rooting for this team to lose, that are rooting for this team to take some L's, right? This was a phenomenal loss because the team came out and they were winning for a large stretch, but in the fourth quarter fell apart, and then even executed down the stretch pretty well, just couldn't really knock down those shots. Well, weren't really hitting, and that's kind of how it goes for this team. But before we give any analysis on this game, I just want to bring up the most important storyline in this one. It's Jakob Poeltl, who had 25 points. It said he had 20 rebounds earlier. I think they removed a rebound from him, but 19 rebounds this game, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks over the course of this one, 12 of 21 shooting. And Jakob Poeltl has frankly, again, quietly just had a phenomenal season for this Raptors squad on a team where he's not really in a position to take that massive leap forward, because yes, 21 shots, a lot of shots, led the team in shooting tonight, but had a lot of good touches. The defensive schemes the Pistons were running were really trying to stop the drives, the slashing from Barrett and Gradey Dick, but we'll talk about those guys after. But Jakob Poeltl really took advantage. His float game, his touch in that 7 to 10 foot area has really been on another level. And there's been a lot of discussion. Hey, Jakob Poeltl can't shoot. He's not a great shooter, so we can't really have him as a valuable piece for this team long term. But rather than and he's not going to ever be a floor spacer. 29 years old, he's not going to develop that 3-point shot probably. We've seen Brook Lopez do it, I guess, at the end of his career, but Poeltl's not going to be that guy in terms of being a 3-point sniper, mid-range sniper by any stretch. But the way he sort of has fixed that issue over the course of the season is he's catching the ball in the mid post. They're sagging off him as you usually do, which clogs the lane a little bit, but he's able to take these couple quick little dribbles, and in that, again, 7 to 12 foot range, has these touch shots. I want to call them these Amir Johnson little touch post hooks. That's the guy I kind of grew up watching, making those money sideways to the basket, little post hooks. You can't really see the hand out here while I'm doing it, in this little box, but Jakob Poeltl has just been money on every single one of those shots, and frankly, it has unlocked his offensive game. And he looks more confident driving the basket now, and his free throw percentage hasn't been on another tier, but it has been improved, and he just looks way more confident out there on the offensive end. And frankly, it's had a serious impact on his performance, his ability to perform over the course of the season. 14 points per game, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.3 blocks, 1.2 steals, and it's just really producing night in, night out. Has been the most consistent Toronto Raptor over the course of the season. And while, yes, Barrett, Gradey Dick, they've had higher upsides, and obviously Scottie Barnes hasn't played a ton, but, there's more talented guys on the Toronto Raptors than a Jakob Poeltl. But really, in terms of importance, especially in regards to how this roster is balanced, in terms of how this team is currently structured and situated, Jakob Poeltl has been by far our most important player in terms of playing positive basketball out there on the court. And frankly, this has led there's a huge contingent Raptors. Again, the capture the flag. It's not hidden. They all discuss. They're open about the rebuild, about the direction of this franchise. But Jakob Poeltl, his emergence right now has forced his team into some pretty interesting, tough decisions, right? He's under contract for this season and next on a very, very reasonable contract. And the way that he's producing, as a top level center out there in the NBA right now, he would be extremely valuable out there on the trade market, especially with all the injuries that have been going down to big men across the NBA. I mean, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have championship aspirations over the course of this year. Yes, they just dumped a ton of money into Isaiah Hartenstein. Obviously, Chet Holmgren is the future there, but those two guys have dealt with some serious injuries to start off this season. And, at that center position, adding extra depth, they aren't running any big men out there now. So Jakob Poeltl could be a very interesting sort of acquisition to play for them. The New Orleans Pelicans, a team with, who've been depleted with injuries, need some big men spots. There are teams in the NBA that really could be in need of a guy like Jakob Poeltl that are in contending status and could be willing to pay a lot of, trade assets, draft value, whatever the heck it is, to the Toronto Raptors in order to make a deal happen the way Jakob Poeltl has been playing. So, again, I'm not screaming from the mountains, trade Jakob Poeltl, make a move, Masai. I am not doing that. But it is an interesting situation because, again, he is a bit older in the core. Most of our top tier guys now are between that 23 to 24, 25 range. Gradey Dick, who's a little bit younger, Jacoby Walter, who's younger and stuff, and Jakob Poeltl is at 29. So not old. He's not over the hill. He's not washed by any stretch of the imagination. He's under a reasonable contract for the next couple seasons. But, again, acquiring assets, building up that stockpile of young talent, so this team is really just phenomenal in 2 seasons versus, being a little bit extra good right now. Those are the decisions you have to make. I'm sure Jakob Poeltl will still be a phenomenal basketball player, come 2 seasons from now at this point when the Raptors players have matured, have developed, and gotten to that point. But it's an interesting spot to be in, and has serious implications because this is probably the biggest decision Masai Ujiri has to make to start off this year. So very interesting stuff going on with Jakob Poeltl right now. But it wasn't just him in the storyline from this game, but it was definitely the biggest one. Jakob Poeltl playing phenomenal, doing his thing. But in this one, RJ Barrett had a little bit of a bounce back game. Struggled out there on the West Coast, but had a 22, 7, and 6 game. Not the most efficient shooting, but still happy that he's more back on track. More playing along lines of RJ Barrett that we've seen over the course of the season versus the guy that we saw over the past couple games. So very, very positive takeaway there for RJ Barrett at this point. But Gradey Dick is probably the most interesting guy in this one because, again, he has been phenomenal over the course of the season, but shot 1 for 10 from the 3-point line in this one. And the Pistons were just locked in on him, man. They were really focused on not letting him, get those slashes. That's why Jakob Poeltl was a little bit more open for those post hooks, those float shots and stuff in those mid, I want to say mid-range area, but mid close to the basket area. But Gradey Dick, again, still had the confidence to let it fly. He had 2 shots down the stretch of this game to basically tie it or take the lead. I forget the specific, point situations, but two shots that would have been crucial for the Toronto Raptors being able to come back and win this one. But, didn't knock him down. They were great looks, but that's just how it goes, right? Young players, young shooters, they're going to have ups and downs with the shooting performances, but still, even in a clearly off night for Gradey Dick, had 16 points, had 5 rebounds, and was a plus 13 out there in the game. So his impact was felt. The fact that all the defense is locked in on him was a reason Jakob Poeltl was able to be unlocked. So that's something you do have to take into account as a positive for him. Ochai Agbaji didn't have the greatest 3-point shooting night either. Missed a couple of his open threes, and he's been one of the best corner 3 shooters in the entire NBA over the course of this season. So that's one thing to factor in. And Davion Mitchell, is getting some assists, rebounds, and stuff. I found Jamal Shead, Davion Mitchell, the defense wasn't at they're getting passed by a little bit. It felt like not the off night defensive performances we usually see for those two guys at the guard position at that tandem. So that was just one thing from the eye test tonight that I saw. But other than that, there wasn't a ton of positives. I mean, we lost the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons are a lot better this season. I do want to admit that. They had a couple guys play pretty well for them. Malik Beasley hit a ton of shots. Cade Cunningham, not the most efficient night by any stretch, but just had a bunch of guys go out there and score. The Raptors, they just kind of fell apart, right? Like this is not a dominant performance from the Detroit Pistons, but the bench from the Toronto Raptors, Jamison Battle, minus 27 in this game, but knocked down 3 threes, knocked down his shots. I thought he played a solid game despite the plus minus. Bruno Fernando, the tank commander, the new guys, people are calling him. So that was that. Boucher took a weird fall there at one point in this game, but he's been having some really high games and really low games over the course of this year. But 1 of 5 didn't have a crazy impact off the bench. And Shead had a couple of really nice floaters, but didn't have the craziest of impact. But that's just how it goes. That's happens with a young team. Not stressed about the wins or losses, but very, very happy with what I saw from Jakob Poeltl in this one. But let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comment section down below. You guys have best thing to get this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.